Hey there, I'm Louie, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet a little tiny pie. We'll also be going over how to turn it into a larger amigurumi version of this pie, and how to make a berry version of this pie with some cross stitches on top of it to make it look like little crust. Okay, well, without further ado, let's get hooking. For this pattern, I'm using all worsted weight cotton yarn in 100% cotton yarn in colors beige and gray, and you'll also need some maroon if you're going to make a berry colored pie. Because I'm using all worsted weight cotton yarn, I'm using a size G 4mm crochet hook. You'll need some safety bead eyes. I'm using 6mm safety bead eyes for an amigurumi version, and maybe some black thread if you want to make a little mouth. You'll also need some stuffing and a darning needle. I'm using a crimped end darning needle like this. It helps sew in the ends. And you might want a little tiny stick for sewing things together. And some scissors, of course. Okay, well, without further ado, let's get hooking. We're going to start with our beige yarn by making this little tiny pie. Okay, so to get started, we're going to be using our beige yarn for the beginning of this pattern. If you're making the berry pie, you're going to start with the berry yarn or the maroon colored yarn. We're going to start with a magic loop method. You can also use the chain 2 method if you feel more comfortable. For the magic loop method, we're going to take the yarn, take our non-dominant hand, palm up, and we're going to wrap the yarn around our index finger 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. And then take this end and grab it with our index and our ring and middle finger. And we're just going to pull it in like that. Grab this yarn in your hand as well, like a little finger gun. Pew pew. Now we're going to take our crochet hook, go under these 2 first loops here, and we're going to yarn over the last loop. And we're going to pull that under the first 2. Now we're going to yarn over with that end again right here. We're going to pull it under this loop. We're going to kind of scoop it under like that to make a chain, which is going to lock these 2 loops into place. And we can pull it off of our finger. There we go. Now for round 1 of our mini pie, we're going to be doing 6 single crochets into the magic loop or into the second chain from the hook. Now for our case, we're going to be doing the magic loop, obviously. So we're going to take our crochet hook, go into these 2 loops right there, yarn over with this outside one that's attached to the ball of yarn, pull it under, and then yarn over with it again and pull it through those 2 loops to make a single crochet. We're going to do that 6 times in a row. So there's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and here is 6. There you go. Now we can close this magic loop. I like to pull the long end, which will pull one of these 2 inside ends. So you can see that inside one is being pulled in, which means that we want to grab that one and pull it down from right there. Hold it with your dominant hand, pinch it like that so it stays in place. And that's going to pull the other loop in tighter, like that, okay? Once that first loop is tight, now we can pull this tail end and pull the other loop nice and tight as well. And that's going to be how you're going to make a magic loop method. And that's going to be the end of round 1. For round 2 of this mini pie, we're going to be doing an increase stitch into each of the single crochet stitches that you made in the last round. So we're going to take our crochet hook, go into the first one you made. If you're confused with where that is, just count back from where our loop is coming out right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to be the first one you made. Now, it's kind of hard to get into that one, so what I like to do is I kind of like push it under it. You might need your nail to help you get under both those loops. And we're just going to do 2 single crochets into that first one to make an increase. So 2 single crochets. So we got 1 and 2. And we're going to be doing 6 increases total. So there's our first increase. So it's 1, 2, let's do 3 and 4 for a second increase. Here's 5 and 6 for our third increase. And this is going to bring you up from 6 stitches to 12 stitches. So by the end of this round, you should have 12 stitches around. Okay, one more increase right here. Okay, and that's going to be the end of round 2. Now we can go ahead and cut this inside yarn a little bit. We don't really need that at all, so we can throw that to the side. And we're on to round 3. For round 3, we're going to do 2 single crochets, and then we're going to, well, I'll show you. First do 2 single crochets, a single crochet for the next 2 stitches. So we got one right here. Go. There's 1 single crochet. Here's our second one right here. 2. Now for our third single crochet, we want to go over and work into the first round that we made right here. So where this increase is being worked into, right there, we want to get our crochet hook into that stitch, and we want to work a single crochet into that stitch. So we're going to yarn over, pull it through. Try not to make this too tight. You can see that long piece right there. We're just going to yarn over and finish that single crochet. Don't worry, we'll be doing this again. This is going to make the lines on the top like it's a, the pie crust. Okay, so there's our first one. Now we're going to repeat that process 6 times total. So we got 2 single crochets and then a single crochet into the first round. Okay, so let's do it into these next ones right here. So we got 1 single crochet, 2, and then into the round 1. So just go all the way over into this next round and work into that one. Try not to make it too tight and pull it through. Okay, here we go. There's 2 of them. Let's do the next one. And how you can tell where the next one is, here's the next increase. You're going to be starting in the first one in that increase. That's your first single crochet in that repeat. So there's 1. Here's our 2, and then into round 1. Keep going. 1, 2, and then all the way into round 1. There's 4, a couple more. 1, 2, and all the way over into round 1. Okay, last one. 1, 2, and then into round 1. That's going to be the end of round 3. At the end of round 3 here, we should have 18 stitches around. That's pretty much it. All right, for round 4, we're just going to be working a single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So just 1 single crochet into each stitch around, and there should be 18 stitches total. So just keep doing a single crochet all the way around for 18 stitches. Now when you get to the very end of this round, we're going to be pulling through with 2 loops, a gray loop in addition to the beige loop. So just make sure to watch out for that. When we get near the end, we'll start crocheting around our gray yarn to lock it into place. Okay. Just a few more. Okay, now here's our last few stitches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start, we have 2 more stitches left in our single crochet round. So we're going to start into that first one right there. Now we're going to grab our gray yarn because we want to start working around the gray yarn. Okay, so we just want to work around it like that. Just place it in between the loops on the hook and the end attached to the yarn. And just keep single crocheting around it just to lock it into place there. So we got 1, and here's our second one. We can go ahead and pull through with our beige loop. And now we want to pull this beige loop out a little bit and go back into our stitch with our crochet hook. Go back into both those loops. So go right where this end is coming through. There should be 2 loops there. You want to get under both of them. So there's 1 and 2, just like that. Now we're going to grab our gray yarn, yarn over, and pull that through the loop to get a second loop through. So now you should have 2 loops coming out of the same stitch. Now we're going to pull this gray loop out a little bit and leave it there. We'll come back to it after our next round. And now we are on round 5. We're going to pull this beige yarn in a little bit more. Okay, so for round 5, what we're going to do with this beige yarn is we're going to chain 1, and then into the next stitch, we're going to do a slip stitch, but work only into the front loop. So right here into this front loop. Okay, so this is the front one. Okay, not both loops, just the front one. Okay, not this is both loops. We just want this one, the one closest to you. We're just going to do a slip stitch. We're going to yarn over and pull through, and then pull through the loop on the hook. And we're going to repeat that process all the way around. There's going to be 18 of these chain 1 slip stitches in a row. So let's do another one here. We're going to chain 1, go into the next stitch right here, front loop only, and slip stitch. There we go. And this is just going to make a crust. So we're going to chain 1 into the next stitch and slip stitch. Chain 1 into the next stitch and slip stitch. We'll just keep going all the way around. I actually learned this method from a crochet artist that I admire quite a lot. Her name is, she goes by Stephanie Glaves, and she made this really cool skull applique. Let's see if it's anywhere in distance for me to grab. Oh, it's actually not that far. I'll show you once I get to the end of this round. I'll just keep chaining 1 and slip stitching. But she did this around her skull, and it made this really cool border. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to use that in my pie pattern later on. I mean, this was Halloween last year, so this is a while ago. But every now and then I see little techniques like that from other people's patterns, and I think, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I want to use that in my own work. Okay, so keep chaining 1 and slip stitching. Just coming to the end here. Chain 1, do a slip stitch here. Chain 1 and slip stitch. Okay, just a few more. Get this gray yarn to the side. We don't need it just yet, so just keep it away from us. Slip stitch. Chain 1. This is going to be the last one right here. We're going to slip stitch into this last stitch right here. Now what you can do is we're going to cut the yarn. You don't need to have very much of an end here, so just cut like that. And we're just going to pull it all the way through. We're going to take our crochet hook, thread our beige yarn here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go around the first chain that we made. So here's our first chain that we made right there. Right there. Okay, so we want to go around both of these stitches here and go into the back of it, pull it through, and you're going to go back through where that loop is coming out. So right where that end is coming out, you want to get your crochet hook back into there and just kind of work it in till you get to, you can hide it in just for a few stitches. You can see where my crochet hook is going right there. Okay, so just a few stitches in. And that's just going to hide the end. Oopsies. Let's pull that a little tighter. Just going to pull that down like so. That's going to hide the end and mimic the rest of the pattern, so it's hard to tell where the end is. Okay, so there's the end of that. That's going to be the end of round 5. Now let me show you that little skull that I was talking about. Let me just go grab that real quick. It's right here. It's really cute. I mean, look how cute that is. So this is from another amigurumi artist named Stephanie Glaves. You can see she did it right around the end. And I made this in embroidery thread, but pretty neat. So check it out if you have a chance. Okay, now so we are done with round 5. For round 6, what we'll do is we're going to take our gray yarn here, get our crochet hook in there, and we're just going to tighten it around our crochet hook. And what we'll do is we're going to single crochet into the back loops that we didn't work into for our last round. So if you go to where our first stitch is, which is right here, we're going to go into just the back loop. You can see my crochet hook there. It's going just into that back loop. You can see them all in the back here. And what we want to do while we're working around here is we want to work around our this tail end of this beige yarn just for a few stitches. What we're going to do into these back loops is just do a single crochet all the way around. There should be 18 stitches total. So just into that back loop, we're going to take our gray yarn, single crochet around that beige yarn. There's one. Let's just do a couple. There's two. Just around that beige yarn, and now we can cut it and just toss that to the side. And we'll just keep crocheting around with this gray yarn into these back loops. Again, there should be 18 stitches total. Just keep going all the way around. Whoop, there we go. And at this point, I'd like to just really quick say thank you so much to all the Club Crochet members that are currently members on the site. It really helps the site out a lot. I use all the funds that come from Club Crochet members and put it right back into the website. So all the money that people spend on memberships, it just goes into making more of these patterns. It doesn't help with anything else other than that. I have actually a full-time job other than this. So I like to use all the funds to just go right back into the site. So I just really thank you very much for that. It helps me continue doing this, and also it keeps me motivated. Every time I get a new member, it keeps me motivated to continue working around. Okay, so we just have one more stitch right here. That's going to be our 18th stitch. There we go. We just have single crochets all around. Now you can see our little pies coming together. Now for, that was round 6. For round 7, we're just going to do another single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So this time you can work into both loops of our gray yarn. We could just keep single crocheting all the way around. If you like this video, please let me know by liking the video down below. It helps the channel out. Also, you can share this pattern with anybody that you think might enjoy it. All you have to do is use clubcrochet.com/pie, P-I-E, and it will share the pattern with anybody in any crochet groups that you might like, or any friends that you have that are good crocheters. Also, I tried to make this video comfortable for beginners. Let me know if you feel I'm going too fast or I'm not giving enough explanation. Just let me know in the comments down below if you have any specific questions. All right, so we're at the end of our round here. We just got a few more stitches left, just with our single crochets. One more right here. All right, so that's going to be the end of round 7. Okay, for round 8, we're going to be working into the back loops only. So remember how we worked in the front loops in this first, into this pie crust, and we worked into the back loops using the gray yarn. We're going to be working into the back loops again. So take your crochet hook, go into the back loop of the next stitch right here. Okay, so just this back one. And we're going to do a single crochet into the first stitch. And then into the next 2 stitches, we're going to do a hard decrease, not an invisible decrease or a single crochet 2 together. This is going to be a hard decrease. Now let me show you how to do that. Let's go into the next stitch right here, pull a loop through like you're doing a single crochet. Now go into the next stitch right there, get a second loop, and pull that second loop through that stitch and then through the 2 on the hook. Okay, we're going to do that again in just a second. And that's called a sharp decrease. It's just going to make it really flat on the bottom, really keep it flat so that you can, keep it standing up. All right, so we're going to repeat that process 6 times in a row. So there's a single crochet, then a sharp decrease. Let's do another one right here. Single crochet, and then a sharp decrease. So go into the next stitch, pull a loop through, into the next stitch right here, pull a second loop through, and pull that second one through the 2 on the hook. Let's keep going. Single crochet. Oops. There we go. Sharp decrease. And this should bring you down from 18 stitches to 12 stitches. So you should have 12 stitches by the end of this round. Okay, single crochet. Sharp decrease. As you can see, we're getting close to the end of this. Single crochet, and here's our sharp decrease. There we go. Got a little bit of cat fuzz, I think. All right, so that's going to be the end of that round. Now for our final round, we're going to just be doing a decrease into each stitch all the way around. One of those sharp decreases again. This time you can work into both loops, not just the back one. So you're going to take your crochet hook, go into both loops of the next stitch, pull a loop through, and then go into the next stitch right here, pull a second loop through, and pull that second one through the 2 on the hook. That's going to be another sharp decrease. We're going to do 6 of those total. So there's 1. At this point, I like pinching it closed a little bit. It makes it a little easier for me to get into each of the stitches. And there is 2. Next stitch, boom. boo, and then there's 3, boom, 2, boo. There we go. 4, there's 5, and our last stitch right here. 1, 2, there we go. That's going to be 6. Now we can cut the yarn. You don't need a very long of an end. That's probably just fine. We can just pull it all the way through. And we're just going to stuff it up a little bit and sew it closed. So let's grab some stuffing. You don't need very much stuffing, obviously, because this is not very large. And I'm going to use my little stick for this, but you can also use the back of your crochet hook if you feel comfortable with that. And I'm just going to kind of sideways place it into the hole there. Just like so. There we go. We could use probably a little bit more. I like using a wooden stick because it holds onto the fibers of the stuffing and helps you stuff it in a little bit more. That's probably pretty good. Maybe we'll do just a tiny, tiny bit more. And there we go. Now we're going to sew it closed. I'll just do this relatively quick. If you'd like to learn more about how to sew closed in more detail, go to clubcrochet.com/sew closed. All right. So what I do is I count 3 stitches up. So we got 1, 2, 3. Go into the top of that 3rd stitch and go out through where our last stitch was completed right there. Then I go into the next stitch over, so that's going to be 4. Go into the top 4 and out through the first stitch right there. And once I'm through that stitch, I can pull the first one tight. Go into the next one. Pull a little tighter. I go into the next stitch over right here. Out across. Pull that last one tight. Pull it in, and then to finish it up, we're going to go into the next stitch over right here. Going to go out through somewhere on the side, pull it tighter, go, and then now you can cut it right here if you want, or we can just go through the bottom to create a bit of a knot. Yeah, like that. And we can cut it close, really, really close, like right there. All right, and that's going to be how you crochet a little tiny miniature pie. Okay, so for this larger amigurumi pie, I'm just going ahead and skip the first 2 rounds because they're exactly the same as our smaller pie that we were just making. So make the first 2 rounds of the smaller pie. Again, that's just single crocheting 6 into the magic loop and then increasing to make it up to 12. And then we're working different. So now we're on this larger pie. We are on round 3. And for round 3, it's still going to be pretty simple. We're going to be doing a single crochet into our first stitch and then an increase into the next. Okay, so right here, 1 and 2. So a single crochet and then an increase, and we'll repeat that 6 times total. Okay, so we'll just keep doing that repeat. Here's our second one, single crochet and then increase. And that's going to bring you up from 12 stitches around to 18 stitches around for round 3. Okay, so just keep going around, single crochet, and then increase. Single crochet, we got a couple more, and then increase. And if you're making this as a berry pie, you want to be using all berry yarn again. Okay, so here's our last increase. And that's going to be the end of round 3. For round 4, we're going to be doing something a little different. Now, if you're making a berry pie, again, we'd be using all maroon yarn. And for round 4, for a berry pie, you'd be doing 2 single crochets and then an increase repeated 6 times around. That would bring you up to 24 stitches around. We still want to get up to 24 stitches, but we don't want to do that exact thing. Instead, what we want to do is we want to do 3 single crochets. So we go 1, 2, and 3. And now we want to make that same exact like crust pattern that we did on our small pie, but it's going to be a little bit larger this time. So what you're going to do is you're going to go all the way to round 1. So you're going to go all the way. I like to pull this loop out a little bit. Go all the way out, so down, down, down to round 1 right here. Go into that stitch, yarn over, pull a loop through. Now we can pull these. Actually, I shouldn't have pulled that first one so tight. There we go. You can pull it through, and now we want to single crochet. So we're single crocheting into that first round. You want to keep this somewhat loose. Just do that single crochet right there. Okay, and you're going to repeat that process 6 times total. So 3 single crochets, and then into the first round, a single crochet. So let's do it again. Where you want to start after that is there should be a single crochet stitch right there. So start into that one. Just do 1, 2, and then 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then all the way down to round 1. Just go right to the left of where your last one went in, right here. Just like that. Oopsies. There we go. And there you go. Again, try not to make it too tight. Let's do it again. 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3, and then all the way down. Boop. There's 3. We want to do 6 total, so 1, 2, and 3. Here's our 4th repeat. See, this is what it looks like in the back. Let's go to 5th repeat. 1, 2, and 3, and then into that first one. 1, 2, and 3 into that first round. There we go, we're getting it. And let's see, is that 6? Oh, that is 6. Okay, so that's going to be the end of round 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be the end of round 4. For round 5, we're just doing a single crochet into each stitch around. So there should be 24 stitches around, and we're just doing a single crochet into each one. So there's 1, 2, 3, and the rest of this pattern is actually very similar to the smaller pie, where we'll just be doing a single crochet in each stitch around, and then we can make our crust and then the pie tin. Just keep doing single crochets all the way around. Again, there should be 24 stitches around. When we get to the end of this round, we will be switching over to our gray yarn. We'll actually be pulling through with our gray yarn and our beige yarn. And if you're making the berry pie version of this larger pie, you can finish. This round should be all in maroon, but then you would pull through with beige. And you can continue making this larger and larger if you want as well. You can make it even larger and just keep doing that single crochet into the first round. Okay, so we only have 2 more stitches here. So we've got 1, and here's our last one right here, 2. And we can grab our gray yarn. And we're going to single crochet around this gray yarn and pull through with beige. And we're just going to pull that loop out a little bit. Go back into the stitch under these 2 first loops, just like how we made the small one. We're going to go into these 2 loops right like that. We're going to grab our gray yarn and pull a loop under those 2 loops. Okay, we can pull this gray yarn out a little bit. Make sure not to let this end go too far though. Okay, now using the beige loop, we're going to pull this a little bit tighter. And we're going to do a chain 1 and then slip stitch into the front loop only. So only this first one right here, only a front loop. We're going to do a slip stitch into that front loop. And you want to repeat that into each stitch around. That's going to be 24 times total. So let's do it again. Slip stitch or chain 1 into the next front loop, slip stitch 1. Just keep going around. There's going to be 24 of these repeats all the way around. So chain 1, front loop, slip stitch. chain 1, front loop, slip stitch. Pretty easy squeezy lemon peasy. Okay, we're just at the end here. It's going to be the last stitch. We're going to chain 1, slip stitch 1, and then we're going to do that hidden end like we did in the smaller pie. We're going to cut the yarn. Again, you don't need too long of an end, just like that long. We're just going to pull it all the way through. We'll go ahead and thread this onto a needle. We'll go around the first chain that we made, like right here. Just go around that. Back into the stitch where that end is coming out. And then you just want to work your way down and just hide it in a little bit. There we go. Now we can switch over to our beige or to our gray yarn. We're going to grab these two ends here, and we're going to be working into the back loops that we weren't working into in our previous round. And how you can find the first one, let's pull this loop out just a little bit. How you can find the first one is you can actually just find where that first stitch went into, which is right there. You can go in through the back of it like that. You can see my crochet hook just barely popping through there. That's going to be the back loop, the first back loop you're going to work with. So right there. Okay? And you want to single crochet into each stitch around. There should still be 24 stitches around. And I'm going to work around both this gray yarn and the beige yarn to keep everything locked into place. We're just going to single crochet around those like that. There's one. We'll single crochet around it for 2 stitches. And now we can cut loose. Nice and short like that. And we'll just keep crocheting all the way around, a single crochet into each of the back loops that we didn't work in the previous round. Okay, just coming to the end here, and there's our last back loop. It's going to be the end of that round. Now for our next round, we're just going to be doing a single crochet into each of the gray stitches that you worked into, or that you made in the last round. So we're going to just work into both loops now. You don't have to work into just the back loop. You can work into both ones. And you can just do a single crochet into each stitch around. There still should be just 24 stitches around. Just doing that single crochet all the way around. And after this, we can make the face. Just keep working into those stitches. Okay, and we're just at the end of that round. There we go. And you can see our pie is coming together pretty good, actually. And we can just pull this loop out. And before we continue, let's go ahead and make a face. So for the face, we're going to start by adding safety bead eyes. And you can see I added my safety bead eyes just on either side of one of these crusts. So just on either side of it. So let's just go to the bottom of it right there. See how that looks. There's one. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And the other one right here. Okay, so you see how that kind of works out. And then our mouth's just going to go right in between. You can see these 3 stitches. We're just going to go into those 3. So first, let's lock it in with these little locker thingies. There we go. That was a satisfying click. Here's our next side. Okay, so we got the eyes on. Now we just need to add a mouth. So we can use our some black thread here. Thread that onto our needle. And we want to go, I like to go make my mouth just like kind of slightly above the eyes, actually. I think it makes it the cutest place. And I like to go in through, out through just the left of where the first eye is, right there. And then just go all the way across 2 stitches, so 1, 2. And then come out through the center of this stitch. So you can kind of see how I'm coming out just through the center of that stitch, not through either side of it, like the actual middle of where the V is. Like that. You can keep it straight if you'd like. That kind of looks fun. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around this yarn and go back through the center where we came out. Just pull it all the way through. Try not to pull it too tight. But we're going to double knot these two ends. You can see how our mouth kind of looks like right there. Okay. Now this one, the one that you just went around the inside of that stitch, the center of the stitch, you can pull that one slightly tighter so that the knot kind of comes through like that. So it makes it more of like a really sharp V. And then we can just double knot this on the inside. And I'll show you how you can kind of like smooth out the smile to make it more rounded. So there's 1 and 2 for a double knot. Oop, there we go, double knot. Cut it nice and close. And then if you want it to be a little bit softer, so not as much of a V, you can just grab the end here with your needle. You can actually just pull it out just a little bit. It'll kind of soften that smile up a little bit. There we go. Now we got our pie's got a face. Now we can continue working onto our piece. So let's go into the next round. We're just going to go back through this beige yarn. And for this next round, we're going to be working into the back loops only. Okay, so where last round we worked in both loops, this time we're just going to work in this one furthest away from us right there. And we're going to do 2 single crochets. So we got 1 and 2. And then we're going to do a sharp decrease into the next. So for a sharp decrease, we can go into the next stitch, pull a loop through like we're making a single crochet, then into the next stitch right here, pull a second loop through, and pull that second loop through the 2 on the hook. It's going to really pull it tight. We're going to repeat that process 6 times total. So 2 single crochets, then a sharp decrease. Let's do it again. 1 single crochet, again only working the back loops, 2, and then our sharp decrease. 1, 2, pull that second one through the 2. There we go. And that's going to bring you down from 24 stitches to 18 stitches. So by the end of this round, you should have 18 stitches around. There we go. And we'll go ahead and continue that all the way around till we have 18 stitches. Okay, and that's going to be the end of that round. There we go. See how it's being pulled in really tightly. For our next round, we can work into both loops now. And it's relatively simple, but relatively similar to the last round, but instead of doing 2 single crochets, then a sharp decrease, we'll just be doing 1 single crochet, and then our sharp decrease working into both loops this time. So here's our sharp decrease, 1, 2, skip to my me, because I'm Lou. That's dumb. All right, so we just keep doing that each time around. So we single crochet and then a sharp decrease. Let's do another one. Single crochet, and then a sharp decrease. There's going to be 6 repeats total, and that'll bring you down from 18 stitches to a nice 12 stitches around. And before we get to our last round, single crochet, sharp decrease. Okay, just a few more. Single crochet, sharp decrease. And there's our last one right there. For our final round in our piece, we're just going to be doing a sharp decrease into each stitch all the way around. So just a sharp decrease 6 times in a row. So let's go into the first one right here, pull a loop through, to the second one, pull a second loop through, and pull that second one through the 2 on the hook. So a sharp decrease. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 4. There we go. 5, and here's our last one right here. 1, 2, 3. There we go. There's 6. You can see it kind of like got crumpled in. He's like, help me. And we're just going to cut the yarn, pull it all the way through, and we're never going to help this pie. He's going to be like that for the rest of his life. Just kidding. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take some stuffing and stuff them up a little bit. I'm running low on stuffing. You can hear my cat in the background here. And we're just going to take the end of my crochet hook, the back side here. We're just going to stuff it up And you don't want to stuff it too tight, too much, you know. You don't want to overdo the stuffing, but you do want him to be a little bit firm, you know. You don't want an empty pie. No one wants to eat a pie and then cut into it and it's like empty. There we go, just stuffing it up. That's pretty good, but I think we can get more stuffing than that. Let's go a little bit more. Okay. Let's test them out. There we go. I think that's pretty good, actually. Well, you know what? Let's do just a little bit more, just in case. I don't think it's gonna hurt. I'm gonna use this sharper or this little stick instead now to get into just the nooks and crannies. There we go. And you can take the end here, thread it on a needle, and sew it closed. I'm not going to go into detail about how to sew closed since I just did that, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it really quick. There we go. That tight, and then I'm going to come back through and come back through the bottom. Pull that nice and tight so it's flat. Cut it nice and close. And then the last thing I want to add is a little bit of stuffing coming out of the top, so it kind of looks like steam and kind of like hair too, because it's kind of cute. So we take a little bit of extra stuffing, and what I do is I roll it up in my hands, I flatten it, and just kind of roll it into a little spire. Okay, like that. That's probably pretty good. And you take your crochet or your needle, you can thread this stuffing once you get it nice enough. Sometimes I like flip it over like that, and then I thread it on my needle like so. And I'll just take my needle, go out through the bottom and straight out. Sometimes you gotta wiggle your way through. There we go. Straight through the top. Make sure it's still thread on that needle and just pull it through. And pull it out a little bit more. That's probably pretty good. And you can cut the stuffing pretty close to the bottom. And to make sure there's none showing out the bottom right there, you just pull it up. There we go. And let's plop it down a little bit. Here we go. And that can either be whipped cream or just a little bit of hair. He's got a lot, but it looks so cute. It looks so cute. Okay, so the last thing is I want to show you how to make a berry pie. So for the berry pie, the first 3 rounds are really simple. We're just doing the same exact first three rounds for this larger pie. It's but all in maroon. So we're going to do a round of just 6 single crochets into a magic loop, and then an increase into each stitch to go up to 12, and then a single crochet, then an increase into each stitch to go up to 18 for the berry using the maroon color. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and I'll be back after I make the first 3 rounds of our pie. Okay, so I finished my first 3 rounds of my berry pie here, and I'm at 18 stitches around. Now, if you want to go up and make it even larger, here's a larger berry pie that I have, for example. You would want to increase one more time by doing 2 single crochets and then an increase and repeating 6 times, which will bring you up from 18 stitches to 24 stitches. But for this one, I'm just going to be making a smaller pie. And so for our smaller pie, we're just going to be doing a single crochet into each stitch all the way around for this round 4 here. So for 4th round, we're just going to be doing a single crochet into each stitch around. There still should be just 18 stitches around. And at the end of this round, we're going to be pulling through with our beige yarn to be starting the crust. And you'll also be pulling through with your gray yarn at the same time. just like how you would in your normal pie, but this time you have to also change to your beige yarn since you're not working in beige. So just a few more stitches here. Okay. There we go. And I'm going to have to use a different color beige because I actually ran out of my other beige yarn. Now I'm going to stop actually 2 stitches before the end here so that I can work around my beige and my gray yarn. So let's grab our different colors. Okay, and we're just going to work around these 2 colors for our last 2 single crochets for our berry pie here. So we got 1, and here's our second. We're just going to work around these last 2, and for this last bit we're going to start by let's go ahead and start by pulling through with beige. So I'm going to flip it under, yarn over with beige, and pull through the 2 stitches with beige. Pull that loop out a little bit, and now we're going to go back into the stitch under these 2 maroon loops, 1 and 2, and we're going to grab our gray yarn and just pull through with the gray yarn and pull that loop out a little bit. Now we can cut the maroon yarn pretty short, like right to there, and we'll pull that and our gray yarn to the side, and we'll just switch over to our beige yarn now. Okay, switch over this beige. Oopsies. There we go. And we're going to do what we did in our previous rounds with our beige yarn for our crust. We're going to chain 1 and work into the front loop only of the next stitch right here. And we're just going to do a slip stitch around. We're going to repeat that into each stitch all the way around. So it's just chain 1, slip stitch, front loop only, slip stitch, chain 1, front loop only, slip stitch. We'll just keep going all the way around, and that's going to yeah, that's going to be all you do for this round. I believe this is round 5 for this berry one. So I'll go ahead and do that. The rest of the pattern is actually going to be exactly the same, but I'll still go ahead and, oopsies, I forgot to chain 1 in this last one. I was like, that looks like a very flat crust. Chain 1 and slip stitch. Don't forget to do those chain 1s or your crust will look a little undercooked, I guess. Okay, so here I am on my last stitch right there, just into that last front loop, and we're going to do the same thing that we did last time, where we'll just cut the yarn, pull it through, make a take our needle and thread it onto that end. We're going to make a hidden end by going around our first chain, back into the stitch that piece is coming out of, and then just work all the way back down like this to hide our end. And we'll work around this. We'll work around 3 ends here with our gray yarn. So we're going to switch over to our gray yarn. There we go. And we're going to be working into the back loops that you didn't work into last time. So we're going to take this first one right here. You can see that's where the first stitch is. We're going to work into that back loop of our round, right like that. And we're going to work around these 3 ends just to lock them into place. There's 1. Pull it tighter. We'll just keep going around. 1's probably fine for locking it into place. So I can go ahead and cut the ends a little closer. Toss that to the side. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and work single crochets into the front loops only, just like how we did in our other pies. I mean, the back loops. Just like how we did in our other pies. The rest of this pattern is actually exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is I'll finish up this round of just single crochets into these back loops with the gray yarn. And then I'll show you how to make the crust, and then we'll call it there, because the rest of the pattern is exactly the same. I don't think you really need to see it a million times in a row. Okay, so I finished our round of gray yarn here, and we're just going to pull that out a little bit. And the last thing I want to do that's different for this berry pie is that we want to add a crust. So what you want to do is you want to get a little bit extra of this beige yarn. You don't really need too much. Let's go like that. I guess that is a pretty decent amount. grab the end there. We're just going to thread that onto a needle. And the amount of crust that you want to put on, it depends on your size. So if you're doing a larger one, you can see we do four rows and columns. But for the smaller one, we're just going to do 3. And for the smaller one, you actually, it's actually even a little easier than that too. So what we want to do is we want to start by going through, we can actually pinch it. If we pinch it in half right there, we'll see where the half of our piece is. And you can come out through one side, go directly to the other side, the other half, right, like that. And that's going to be a good place to start. We'll just pull this thread all the way through till you have just a little bit of an end like that. Pull that end. And this should go more or less directly in the center of your pie. Now we can go a few stitches over. It's actually just one stitch over. So it's just one stitch over for each of the things. So we're going to take our end of our needle here, go one stitch over to the right, pull through. There we go. And we're going to go all the way across to it and go one stitch over to the left of that other end. Okay, and now we're going to go one stitch over to the right of that one, like right there. Go across and go one stitch over to the left of that other one. And now you want to come out 2 stitches over. So it's 1, 2. So come out like right here. There we go. So we want to make sure that it's even, you know. As even as we can. It's kind of difficult to like make sure that these crusts are even, but we can get pretty close. Actually, I think we can go one stitch over. So we go 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so let's actually do 2 stitches over, like right there. Oopsies. Okay, like that. And then now when we go across to the other side, we want to go over the first one, under the second one, and then over the third one. So we're kind of weaving it across. And then we can go 2 stitches over, 1, 2, right there. And we want to come out 1 stitch over. Do the same thing, but this time we'll do the opposite. So we're going to go over the first, under the under the first, over the second, under the third. Okay, so it's like the opposite of the last one. We'll go 1 stitch over for that berry, and then 1 stitch over on this one. And we'll do the same thing across, over, under, over. And then into the next stitch right here. And that's how you're going to make like kind of a cross hatching like that. It looks like we could use maybe just 1 stitch, one more right here. So let's go ahead and do one more just because, you know, why not? We can add more, we can add less, whatever we want to do. So we're going to go out through the next stitch here. And we're going to do the opposite again. Let's go under, over, under. And then 1 stitch over like that. And now the inside stitches might be a little bit further away than you're expecting. Here you can see there's where our inside stitches are, but we want to double knot these 2 ends. And even if they're really far away, you can still just double knot them and just try not to make it too tight so that it doesn't pull the top in. But that's pretty good, I think. Yeah, that's great. It looks a lot better when it's stuffed too because it like fills it in. That's a good double knot. And now for the rest of the pattern, it's exactly the same as before. We're just going to be single crocheting around and then stuffing it up and all that other fun stuff. Yeah. Thank you so much again for watching this pattern and crocheting along with me. If you like this pattern, you might like some of the other ones. You can find links to other patterns that I've made down below. And if you wait a little bit, or if you're a Club Crochet member, you can check out this second part of this collaboration by Ravencraft Designs for a little milkshake, which will be coming out at the end of March for the public, and for members you should have access to it right now if you just go to clubcrochet.com/shake. All right, thanks again for watching. Pasta la pizza and happy hooking. You want to say bye, Mr. Pie? Bye, Mr. Pie. I don't know why I did that.